In this interview, we are going to learn about a very important factor in startups to have the right product market fit. Samuel Davis had the best requirements to succeed with his AI tool. It had really amazing developers who are specialized in AI. He had fundings from investors, and he was about to revolutionize how image editors would edit their images. They wouldn't need to spend so much time doing that, so they could earn more and work less. Then he realized that they are not ready for this kind of solution, and they are not willing to use that. Instead of giving up, he pivoted to a different target audience, content marketers, and suddenly his tool was in so much more demand, and now he is ready to scale his business. In this interview, he is going to share very valuable lessons he learned in this pivot in how to define very specific target audience, which you define in a buyer persona or so-called ISP, ideal customer profile, and you write down all the characteristics of your ideal customers so that you prepare your product and your marketing entirely onto this target audience. It can make wonders for startups if done right. And in this video, you learn how to do it right and what mistakes to avoid, not from theoretical point of view, but from real life experience as a software as a service startup founder. Hello, Sam. Nice having you on our podcast. You're an experienced entrepreneur. Could you please tell me a little bit about you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Will. So my name's Sam. I'm the co-founder of an image generation platform called Blunge. So we generate graphics in consistent styles for marketing, branding, UI, UX, sort of a host of other use cases as well.
Yeah, you probably had interesting experiences and lessons from your startup that other startup founders can profit from that. Could you tell me one of the stories and one of the lessons that you learned with the startup?
Sure. Yeah, I think a key one that comes to mind is sort of, and something which is super important because it really steers the ship, is thinking about early customers, talking to early customers and synthesizing feedback. Kind of a key pitfall that we fell into in the beginning was, they always speak about, creating these personas, these very narrow specific personas about your user, and then going out and talking to them. I think that the mistake and a common pitfall is to not get narrow or sharp enough on the actual persona. And what that means is that you think that you're speaking to the same person with the same persona or behavior, and those two things can be difficult to unpick. But you're really speaking to people with different behaviors, or they look on paper they look the same, but they're actually not. And for us, that sort of resulted in getting, speaking to the first, 10, 15 users, getting all this wide variety of feedback. And then sort of from a product management perspective, which is where I work in the startup, kind of getting pulled in all these different directions and, sort of struggling to unpick sort of why the same people, or what I thought were the same people, are giving me all this different feedback. So I think it's super important to get super sharp on that. And once you do get really, really narrow on that persona, we tend to find that we start to get feedback saturation after 5, 6, 7 customer interviews, and then that you're sort of speaking to the right cohort of people that's narrow enough that have a problem you can fix.
So the learnings here are also to do this thing. To if you launch your startup or if you are about to launch your software, it's a good idea to communicate with your target audience. And there, it's also important to be very precise so that you don't have different target audience and who want different things. Could you tell me some concrete answers or feedbacks that they were giving and that was so different?
Yeah, I think the classic one is people will say, I will pay for it, or this would be really useful if it only had this one more thing. And then you hear that, and the temptation is to go away and build it, and then you hear that 10 different things from 10 different people, and you sort of you sat there with this laundry list of things that's going to take you like a long time to build. Like, to think of a concrete example, so with that image generation platform, we had introduced animation capability, and this was kind of like a key thing that an early user, kept knocking on the door about. And lo and behold, we sort of introduced this capability, gave them early access, and it turns out that they were never really going to pay for the product anyway. So I think a really, a much better way of doing it is to first really vet people that are prepared to pay for the problem that you're fixing. And the way to do that is even as simple as to like ask for credit card details, get them to put it into Stripe, and then say, look, I'm not going to charge you anything until we actually build the product, but put the card details in, and then I'll listen to the feedback, but kind of not before. So
yeah, there is always a danger of that the people, since they don't need to pay, they can be as creative as possible, and everyone wants to be creative and show how creative he is or she is. And yeah, the idea is so simple to implement, but also if you ask people, they want the best out of everything. But then if you tell them, okay, but would you be ready to pay €5 for each of those features per month extra? They might say yes, because they just want to be kind. But if they have to pay for that, then they would say, no, why should I pay for nice to have features if there is alternative that is twice much cheaper?
100%. I think it's kind of similar to people ultimately want to sort of be nice, and the startup is your baby. And if you go to someone and say, look at my baby, what do you think of my baby? The chances that they're going to say, I think your baby's really ugly and not particularly useful, relatively low. So it's really a case of you've got to try and tease out what people are saying and what they mean, because they're not often the same things, and it can just lead you down crazy rabbit holes. So
could you tell a bit the details about your first version of the persona and how it changed, maybe with some examples?
Sure, yeah. So the early version of the product really resembles like nothing like what we've got now. It was actually a canvas, a real-time canvas, where you would draw on the canvas, and then in real time it would create graphics in these styles on the other canvas. Sounded like a really good idea at the time, and people had a lot of fun with it, but ultimately we found that the output was just far too unstable. And again, people gave all this positive feedback, but then we finally sort of implemented Stripe, said, okay, if it's great, pay for it, then crickets. So we sort of learned the hard way that what people say they want and what people actually need are different. So these days, the product doesn't have any drawing capability. It's purely, you put in a text prompt and you get an image out the other side. So a total different modality.
Did you had some specific target audience in your mind, like specific professionals?
We actually thought we saw a huge opportunity where, AI is kind of being used for bad. There's, copyright concerns, ethical concerns. I would say AI, particularly image generation technology, the way it sort of steals art is pretty unethical. And there was sort of a watershed moment when I was walking past the arts department of a local university here in Brisbane, and I saw the whole arts degree like literally protesting about a startup called Leonardo AI, which just got bought by Canva. They're a really big Australian startup, and sort of putting all of these people out of a job. So we saw an opportunity to kind of position an AI product for creatives. And I can sort of talk about what that means, and also, an AI product which is ethical. So currently, this was sort of the initial buyer persona. Like at the moment, the first step of an artist creating an image is they go to Pinterest, they find a reference image. This can take anywhere between 1 hour to, basically a whole day to kind of do this process and find these reference images. And then they create new art based on these reference images. So we saw an opportunity to apply this AI technology, this style adherence, to train AI models for individual artists, so they could generate reference images in their own style. So turning, 4 hours or a whole day's worth of work into like 5 minutes. Great idea. And we had some early users who really love the product, but where you don't want to be is too early. And basically with another key learning, the market just isn't ready. These artists are still incredibly prickly about AI. And while we sort of hand recruited the first 10 users or so, trying to scale it beyond that and not have to manually onboard people. We just sort of weren't able to do that. So then again, we sort of, looked for other applications of the technology and we ended up finding that graphic designers, content marketers were a lot more flexible when it comes to using new technologies.
So your first target audience had a basic skepticism against AI, and they put everything as in the same bucket. Like, AI is my enemy who wants to steal my job, and it's so much more difficult to convince those people.
Yeah, I mean, so we would use words like you can save time, you can save money, spend less time of a frustrating process being the reference images. But this particular customer group in the main didn't actually care. They were sort of happy to spend more time. They didn't go into art for money. So again, I think it's really a key learning that you really need to not pitch things that necessarily make sense for you, but really get inside the mind of a customer. And I think, people kind of have their ideal state and then their actual state. And you sort of, need to connect them. So we weren't able to crack that market. It was just too early.
Yeah, on paper, it looks like a tool, a solution that brings so much value. But for this target audience, they don't distinguish between AI tools that increase their effectivity and AI tools that replace them. And I think there is also, among different target audience, there are different types of people who are more the early adopters and others who are more traditional. And if the early adopters adapted that, then only then the traditional users will consider it. How many people did you contact, and how did you choose them?
Yeah, hundreds, literally hundreds. We spent weeks and weeks. Like we Instagram, we went to portfolio websites, emailed people, we met up with, went along to community events, we went along to arts fairs, spoke to people in person, online, kind of did everything we could. So yeah, there's definitely the early adopter curve where you have the 2.5% at the beginning or thereabouts, but we just couldn't find a path to scale it. I think it's particularly hard when you're sort of introducing a new technology, but also you have to do the legwork of, convincing people about the ethics. Like they're already preconditioned to kind of hate your product. So we're having to fight too many battles on both fronts, which is why the market still isn't cracked. But for any aspiring entrepreneurs, I think there's a huge amount of white space there.
What did you feel when it was not working according to your plans?
Good question. So I think, like, for me, the rule of thumb is when you speak with people and then you start to feel like kind of what I would describe as a pull. When we started finding users that, sort of those early signs of PMF or whatever, at the end of the calls, they're sort of emailing me, following up saying, hey, when can I start this? When can I get my hands on it? You mentioned a discount code. When can I jump in? And we never really got that with other user groups. So you really want to focus on finding people, and you'll kind of know what I'm talking about when you feel it, like when you feel the pull.
Yes.
You really want to try and find that. Users complaining as well is another really good one. If people are emailing you and complaining about your product, it means that they're using it. So I think try find people that'll complain about the thing you've built, because it means they care.
Wow, that's really amazing feedback. That's very counterintuitive. So negative feedback is also a valuable feedback, because people just don't leave and go to a different tool or something, but they are really involved in this tool, and they invest the time to tell you what they don't like.
Yeah, find people to complain. It's kind of the counterintuitive advice.
So for beginner entrepreneurs, it might feel like end of the road, or yes, many people maybe try to fix the solution, try to fix here, add another feature, but you already understood that the problem lies in the wrong target audience, and like the product fit with the target audience is not there yet. How did you know that? Did you learn it from other startups?
I think for me, a good time to pivot is where you feel like you're starting to, like, you're sort of running out of good ideas, and you've tried all the good ideas. And when it came to that particular market, we sort of ran out of ideas to make it work. So you've got to try and ship stuff really quickly, test it really quickly, iterate, and after sort of speaking with enough people, trying enough ideas, different messaging, different approaches. I mean, we spoke with so many different personas within the artist community. We set up so many different landing pages, tried different ways of framing our product, different ways of interviewing customers, going to agencies, so even illustration arts agencies, so like the owners, and getting them to provide the product to the artists because they have more of an incentive to save time. We sort of tried it all, and in the day, run out of good ideas. It's a good time to start looking sideways.
Did you feel like it's slipping away from you, or did you feel anxious, or did you understand that it's just part of the journey and you will find a proper way that will work?
What is what's that? The YC guy, he's slept like a baby, right? Like sort of cried all night and got an hour of sleep. So I mean, I think when you're a startup, you think that you're fixing a problem, which is basically your whole value proposition, and people sort of say it's a good idea, but then don't actually pay for it. Like it is very nerve-wracking. And I think you kind of need to go back to basics, and it's a combination of, people will tell you what they want, trying to unpick what they actually want, and then also having your own sort of intuition as to how to fix this problem that they have. So like there's that old Henry Ford quote where he said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses. Obviously, like he made the car. So I think when it comes to startups, particularly like new technology, sometimes people don't know that they need something until you actually show it to them. So I think there's no right or wrong answer. It's kind of a gut feel. It's an intuition, trying to synthesize feedback, but then also give something that people something that you think they need, but they haven't said that they necessarily want.
How did you pivot, and how did you feel the pull now, or did you feel the pull?
Yeah, it was actually really lucky. So we had one of these artist users was actually a graphic designer and also a contents marketer. So he originally created a model for his artwork, but then he was using it for contents marketing and graphic design work. And then he was using it in his office, and he then, I remember it clearly, like the first time he created a model with us, he created the first one, and then the next day he emailed back saying, hey, can I create another model? And then we trained it that afternoon. He then emailed again saying, hey, can I train another one? And from the outside, it looked like, oh, he's an artist. This is a great market to go after. But when we actually started untangling his behavior, the behaviors were not for reference image generation. It was actually for content marketing for the companies he worked for and for graphic design. So you've always got to sort of, unpick why people are using it, because you can have people in different functions who just have a different behavior. That was the first time we started feeling the pull. And then he, again, like shared the product with the people in his office. And then we started getting emails from his team, and it kind of snowballed from there. But it did take quite a while for us to sort of work out, why is this guy different? Why does he love the product where all these other users who look the same actually don't care that much?
How did you recognize a different pattern? Did you did you see it according to the analytics?
No, we spoke with him. Yeah, we got on the phone. If you're honest with people, you pitch yourself as an early stage startup who, they're trying to learn. You're an early stage customer. We value your feedback. We're trying to help the product make the product better for you. I think when you pitch it like that, people, in my experience, are pretty receptive to speaking with you, even though it seems like a scary thing. And generally, they're pretty excited to sort of be involved as well. They sort of feel, like a bit involved in the process, which they totally are. And the best way is just to reach out to people.
Yes, I think that's the most important factor of startups, especially B2B startups, where you are targeting not a huge amount of consumers, but other users. It gives you so much feedback, so much valuable information about how you can improve your product, but also your marketing. And I think many startup founders, they are reluctant to call their clients or prospects because it feels like I don't want to bother them, and it's so much outside of comfort zone. But in the end, everyone profits. Even the client feels like he or she is valued.
Yeah, and I think there's like that a sort of age-old meme of like the tech bros who go off and build some amazing technology in a basement for 2 years and then come out and then wonder why no one wants to buy it. And the answer is clearly like you haven't sort of spoken to people and understood their pain points. But that's exactly the point, because it's a very uncomfortable thing to do. And I think typically like the building persona, the people that the software engineers who are actually making these products, generally the personality type is like not someone who's going to go out there and speak to people. And I think you mentioned the word feature creep as well. I think it's the natural instinct is just to sort of keep it all in your head and just think, if I build this one extra thing, then my startup's going to blow up, and you wind up just building to infinity, but in a direction that no one cares about. So I think it's always, incredibly important to speak to people.
Did you have the problem to convince people because they thought you are not sustainable enough, not like as a startup, they would prefer bigger corporations that they know, okay, they will be in 10 years here. The likelihood at least is higher. And with startups is you never know how long do they exist, or is it not so common objection?
No, not really. I think like for us, if we fix a problem, so I should make it clear as well, like our customers, we do have some business customers who have like trained their own AI model on their brand, but generally it's sort of like more consumer app. So it's individual designers, content marketers using it for their workflows. So it's a lot easier to convince individual people to like who actually have the purchasing power decision. We did go in a direction where we tried to convince enterprises, but that's a whole other side story that didn't work out. But we didn't really have that problem about people wondering whether we're going to be around or not.
Yeah, it's with different tools. If you host your data there, and then it's maybe difficult to move out, to switch the provider, then it's a much more important factor. But it's very interesting that you mentioned the difference between the smaller users. For me, they are also kind of B2B because they are using your tool for their business, but they are decision makers, and they don't need to speak with the next level with other decision makers. And compared to that, the enterprise, where it takes several appointments, and then maybe after half a year, they say, no, the final decision maker decided not to go with that tool because they want to go with SAP, like with a huge corporation or something.
100%. Yeah, I think you're right in that many of our users are for business, but the go-to-market, they're all using it for business, but the go-to-market motion is the same as if the consumer app, because it's about quantity rather than having these big fish that take 7-8 months to reel in, and then you can find the startup for another year if you get one of these big contract sizes. So I think it's a very different go-to-market motion.
With B2C, as with a smaller target audience, you can also be a bit more creative with marketing, and it's not so much focused on sales. You can also do a lot without sales, because it's maybe a few dozens of dollars per month. It's not a decision that they have to evaluate very long. And what is your stage currently? Did you just find out that there is some pull, or did you already see more progress in this direction, in the new direction?
Yeah, so probably since maybe a month ago, we've started feeling more of the pull, and then our users sort of doubled one week, doubled the next week. That's sort of where we are now. So where we're at as a business, we just raised with a VC fund, a small round, and the square focus for us now, the tech has been developed. It's about scaling the user base. So when you're sort of trying to scale a product as well, there's all this other stuff that comes into it, like customer activation, onboarding flows, sort of gating premium features, all this other stuff. So once you know that you've kind of fixed a problem and that someone's willing to pay for it, you then got to transition to how do I scale it? And oftentimes the product needs to change quite a bit, so people can self-service on the platform and build confidence over time in the product. And then right when the confidence is high, you then ask for payment details. So that's kind of been the step that we're at right now.
So you are offering certain features, the basic features, for free?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we allow people, it's a freemium model. So they're
Yes.
allowed to generate a certain number of images for free. And
Mhm.
then, to train their own model or to generate more. Also, then it's going to paid plan. We also have a bunch of features which are locked for, paid plans like animation, SVG
Mhm.
downloads, in painting, a couple of other things as well.
You mean you have built the basis and now it's about to improve the premium features, improve to improve the usability so that they can understand immediately how to use it. You always need a basis first. You cannot start optimizing every single thing, but at some point when that's there, you can focus on optimizing all the fine things. Yeah.
100%. So like the way I kind of went about it is I would, we had the product, I'd sit in the room with someone or jump on a call, explain the product to them, run through some examples, watch them use the product. Invariably you get a bunch of feedback just through watching people use the product,
Mhm.
and then you work out if they'll pay for it after onboarding them. If they do pay for it, and then you find a couple of those people, even 5, 10, you know that you've actually fixed a specific problem. And then the next stage is you sort of go into a room, you don't say anything to someone, and you just give them the product and you just keep your mouth shut, and then you just see what happens. And the difference between giving someone sort of this preamble, introducing them to the context and everything, and then just dropping them on your landing page, you're going to learn like a hell of a lot more things in the latter, and there are going to be parts of the product that you didn't realize were a problem. It's a case of building trust, exposing features to customers, onboarding them, and asking for payment details. So I think that was kind of the process for us. And
Mhm.
then only after you've solved the latter is it then time to actually sort of, you know, scale the user base, because you can do it in a repeatable way, where people can self-service and you don't actually have to be in the room guiding them through the product.
That's a very smart approach. How did you find those people that you could put in the room that would do it without any instruction?
Yeah, again, combination of personal network. So that's
Mhm.
always a big one. The chances are, unless your user group is like incredibly niche, like you should be able to find people in person. So you can also do, like, we didn't go down this route, but you can go through a number of platforms online and actually pay for users
Mhm.
to come and try your product, and you can do paid interviews. It's quite expensive, but that's a fast way of doing it. And then the other way is just reaching out to them. So emails, you can use tools like Clay, Smartly to sort of
Yeah.
email a bunch of people, going onto Instagram, sort of manually trying to hand recruit people, Twitter, I mean, really anything. Just, yeah. If you frame it the right way, we're an early stage startup. I really want to hear your feedback. You'll find most of the time people are pretty curious and willing to help. And they're also, interested if you're really fixing a problem for them. Yeah, it's easier than you might think.
Is there a big difference between those people, between individual of those testers, that some people are really overwhelmed with some simple things, and maybe others who are used to tools like that are much more confident in using those tools?
Well, I think that's like, it sort of comes back to my original point about the really narrow persona. So if your persona is narrow enough, then the behavior should be consistent within a bound. So for example, for us, like one of the key things of our persona is it's one of the characteristics is it's people that have used image generation platforms previously
Mm.
and have experienced the limitations of them. So when we give them a product like Blunge, there's a much quicker path to an aha moment because they have the context to understand the value proposition. So I would say that if you're sort of targeting your product at people with a wide range of experience and all this other
Mm.
stuff, it makes the onboarding very, very difficult, and you're better off just getting razor sharp on who you're actually going after, and then optimizing that for that.
Yeah, I understand. You could say, like, not optimal way to do it would be to say, okay, my target audience are image editors who editing images. That's so broad. There are so many different people among those. But if you say, okay, I want to have image editors who are in a specific, maybe even industry, who have 2 to 5 years or 2 to 6 years experience, and who have used certain type of tools already, so who are not just focused on Photoshop, And then suddenly you have a concrete, very specific target audience who have the right amount of experience with certain things, and who, where you have much more chances that they will like your tool and they will understand your tool, because your tool doesn't need to be understandable for everyone. And if you try to do that, then it will be so simplified. It's like Google search front page, just 2 buttons and 1 search. But then other people who are more advanced and more used to advanced tools or AI tools, they will be disappointed.
For sure. I mean, to give an example, like our early market scoping, so when we were looking at sort of the artist persona, we wound up landing on people who are graphic designers who did freelance illustration on the side between a particular age and particular cities. And using a tool like Clay, like basically our ICP, the market was like 2,000 people in Australia. So that's, in a country of 28 million or whatever it is, like 2,000 people is not many. And I think you really want to be that laser focused on this persona or ICP and hypothesis test. So, you lay out a whole bunch, run different landing pages for them, frame the product in a different way, and then sort of move through them, almost like a science experiment. So I think a lot of product management, a lot of, mapping your solution onto problems, like depending on what it is, you should be running it like sort of a high school science experiment, measuring things and then learning and changing.
Yeah, ICP is ideal customer persona. For those of who don't know what it is, it's basically the buyer persona. It's basically where you define what is your ideal client and which characteristic they have, so that you can, everything you do is targeted towards this particular person, and it represents the target audience. Otherwise, you are creating a product for the gray masses, and you cannot put yourself into the shoes of your target audience if you don't have a concrete type of person. It's a very important part. Probably many entrepreneurs might think contrary to specific ICP. They think they want to target as many people as possible, as many different people, so that they don't lose anyone who visits their website. But the competition is so hard nowadays, so you need to be the perfect solution for a small target audience. And there are tools like Clay, also Sales Navigator in LinkedIn is a good tool for that. You can really dive pretty deep and filter out a specific target audience that is ideal for you.
100%. Like I think even if we think about, Facebook, like they initially couldn't raise any money because the size of their market was like one university, right? Obviously, like they were able to expand around that to other universities and then the general population. Same with PayPal, right? Like massive company now. Originally, the target market was just the most active eBay users. So I think there was, it was in the thousands, not many. So, and again, they were able to sort of expand the market in concentric circles around their ICP. So I think that's really what you want to do.
Yeah, and you don't need to think about scalability in the beginning, because it's not scalable to talk with each of the prospects and clients, but it's all about lessons learned in the beginning and trying to figure out the best direction. And as soon as you figure it out, then you can scale, and then it works suddenly. It's without so much waste of money, because the more you talk with people, with real human beings, the easier it will be for you to understand how they think, what their concerns are, and all those features, they are built on real feedback and on real human needs. How do you plan, or how do you execute the next phase where you scale up? Which kind of marketing channels are you using, and which kind of approach do you use?
Yeah, we've sort of been testing everything. So a combination of like we've tried again, like Clay said, direct email. We've tried Threads, Instagram, Twitter as well. Also paid marketing. So a couple of things on that. I think these days the market is so saturated with AI products.
Yeah.
The traditional way of growing a startup is you have an organic customer base. you grow the organic customer base, and then paid marketing doesn't come until much later in the piece. I think with a lot of AI products and what a lot are doing at the moment is actually kind of forcing product market fit, where they pay for advertising, get users, and because the technology changes so quickly, like the value of the company is not necessarily the product or the tech, it's actually the user base and the community. So when it comes to go to market, where given that we've tested all, like we've found a pretty efficient way using paid marketing to acquire users, which is counterintuitive. But when it comes to AI, the sort of rules and physics of the game are quite different. So that's the main customer acquisition funnel we've gone down. As well, I think another really important thing that we've done is, given that our product has quite a lot of features, we've created all these landing pages for different parts of the product.
Mhm.
And then we've tested them through different advertising campaigns. So, for example, we could advertise it as an AI SVG converter, an AI SVG generator, and AI animation generator, or for example, one of the most successful ones has been as an AI stock asset generator, so generating stock asset libraries, and that's sort of what we've had most success with.
Yeah, it seems as an entrepreneur, you also have to have the right expectation in terms of time, how much time everything will take. So it's not like you create a AI tool and then 1 year later you are counting the money, like the revenue, but it's all about testing certain things, testing certain theses, certain questions, and then oftentimes it's not the right answer that you hope for, but then you pivot and then you test again, and at some point you have a series of positive kind of proofs that certain things are working, and that's where the real growth starts working. And with organic growth, I guess you mean you build a LinkedIn profile where you get many followers, or maybe even other channels. Which channels were you focusing on in organic growth?
Yeah, we were exploring all of them. So we set up a blog. We were trying blog posts. More recently, we've started using Twitter, also Instagram, Reels, carousels, Threads, as well as another one. We were going to Reddit forums, posting there. I think that the main thing is to find out where your customers spend time, and then try and spend time with them there. For us, it's sort of, we've had most success with Twitter.
Wow, interesting. There is also the new competitor of Twitter, Blue Sky. Have you tried them?
No, not yet.
It's from the same founders than Twitter. It's supposed to have the best chances, but they are not very user. You cannot advertise on them yet, but for organic growth, it might work. But it's also the problem with new things like Thread from the Instagram version of Twitter, is that you can invest a lot of time and you don't know in which direction it goes. For example, the Instagram version of Twitter, I think it's getting pretty quiet. It had a lot of
a spike at the beginning.
Yeah, but it went down. So it's also risky. So it's sometimes better to use the established platforms. It's a bit surprising for me, to be honest, that Twitter works well for you.
Yeah, I think it really just depends again on your users. Like when it comes to particularly content marketers, it's where a lot of them go to get information. As well, it's a more organic forum where your content is exposed to a greater number of people. Instagram's a bit more like silos. So you kind of have your account and your followership. It can be quite hard to break out of that sometimes. So really depends on what your product is, who the audience is, and how you want to engage with the community.
Was it overwhelming to have so many channels, or did you manage to make it very efficient?
Well, we're in the lucky spot where we have 4 co-founders, 3 of them are technical, which means that I could focus just purely on marketing. So it was like, it is quite tough, but you can repurpose a lot of the content. And when it comes to copywriting, I mean, there are so many AI tools out there that help you write copyright efficiently. It's kind of never been easier.
Yes, yes. At some point, it's in the beginning, you experiment and you invest a lot of time and effort, and oftentimes with limited output. But at some point, when you figured out what works the best, then you neglect kind of all the channels that don't work very well and just repurpose the content if it's possible without much effort. And then you double down on the things that work. And then you suddenly can also progress in those things. If you suddenly can post twice as much because you have suddenly more time, and you can also engage with other community members, which is oftentimes pretty valuable, then the main channel starts blowing up to a certain degree.
Yeah, I think it's just, testing as many things as you can and then learning really quickly and then figuring out where to direct your effort. So in terms of those channels, like we don't put effort into all of them now. It's really only,
Wow, that was really, really interesting. I think there is a lot of valuable lessons for other entrepreneurs. Would you like to say something to our audience as the last point?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Marketing and branding is becoming it's always been super important. So if you need visuals for your products, for your UI, UX, marketing, content marketing, head over to Blunge and give it a go, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about our journey or about the product.
Awesome. We will link to this tool in the description below, and you can check it out for free. That's no risk.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Sam.